I think we are on, folks. Welcome,
All
Mike
right.
Cleveland. How you doing?
Doing great, Jan. How you doing?
Oh, I'm hanging in there. And
Awesome.
Dan Anderson, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm going to get along for the ride here.
Well, tonight we're gonna listen to a show by Jimmy Martin and the Sunny Mountain Boys from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, 1974. And so this is the era that has Steve Sutton on banjo, and then Billy Baker played the fiddle on this one. And Michael, you know Billy Baker, don't you?
Yeah. I've met him a couple times. I've seen him play.
Hmm.
Just kind of random shows. I think I saw him play at Bean Blossom. Man, it's been probably 15 years ago. He was playing with David Davis and the Warrior River Boys,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
I was blown away because a guy had made me his. And I should ask you about this. Have you ever heard this album of Billy Baker
Yeah.
that has Del McCurry, Bill Keith?
Yeah.
It's a studio album.
Yeah. Is it the one from '68 that Del McCurry sings? Is it on our Hooli
Oh
record?
no, this is a fiddle album.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Actually, I have two of Billy Baker's solo fiddle albums.
Yeah, and I look around like on eBay and places that have vinyl. I have
Yeah.
tried to find that, and I can't. I can't even find anybody who remembers the title of the album. I was gonna ask.
Seems like the covers were very similar for Volume One and Two, or whatever they were called. There was just different picture. It was the same picture, but in different colors, I believe. But
Huh. But it
anyway,
was like a two-volume thing or something.
yeah, yeah.
Huh.
Maybe
Yeah.
not. Maybe it's like Volume One or Volume Two, but there are two albums. Bill Baker, yeah. But yeah, he's a fine fiddle player.
Oh,
The
great.
last I heard of him was I saw a YouTube video of him playing with Butch Robbins and Mike Compton, and let's see, uh, who else was it? I can't remember. Played bass, but they did. That was the most recent Bluegrass Boys reunion they had, probably
Oh, okay.
last year or something like that.
Ah, all right. I have to look for that.
Yeah.
And then I played in the band with. I played in Rhonda Vincent's band with Steve Sutton for about a year and a half,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah,
we picked like I met him before that at Merle Fest,
yeah,
and I this was like 96, 97. We just
uh,
kind of came down for the day
yeah,
and met Steve, and anybody who knew Steve Sutton, what a friendly guy,
oh
and just loved to play, man,
yeah,
and didn't matter, who was there, who was around, like, and we just ended up in a jam session. I think it was me and my buddy Brian on guitar, and Steve Sutton and Roland White, and
no, okay,
all of a sudden, we're in the middle of this jam, and there's just some people that you click with musically, And
yeah,
man, me and Steve, we just hit it off,
mm,
and would play would play together every chance we got. Obviously, he lived there in or Waynesville,
yeah,
and then I was Louisville, Kentucky area, but he actually came and played some local gigs with us, like, not very good paying gigs either. He wasn't doing it for the money. He
no,
was
no,
definitely doing it to jam.
yeah. Well,
But
I remember Steve from from Bill Stanley's barbecue in Bluegrass in Asheville, North Carolina. They
I've
had
heard of that.
they played like I guess 6 nights a week or something. The Mark Pruitt band,
Yeah.
and they
Steve
had
was playing guitar.
yes, Steve was playing
Yeah.
guitar and Mark banjo then, and
Yeah.
Arvil Freeman on fiddle, and Mike Hunter.
Man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Arvil.
Mike Hunter and Arvil.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so who played the bass? Who played
I
the
don't
bass?
know.
I should know it. I used to go there all the time.
It wasn't Randy.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Randy
Randy.
Davis.
Yes, 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 of course. Yeah, I knew, and he was, Randy was a Coke truck driver or Coke delivery guy. So he would come by our bluegrass center there every week, and
Oh wow.
it's always good to have. We didn't get to visit too often, but or too long, But it's very. He would pick a number every now and then with us.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, already digressing like crazy here. So let's see. Then we got Ray Martin
Yeah.
on the mandolin. That's Jimmy's son, and then Gloria Bell on the bass and vocals. And there is a guest appearance by Chris Warner and his daughter Lisa Martin.
Mm.
So here, let's just play a few numbers and see what it
All
sounds.
right.
Colt Haney's Gettysburg, 1974, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Here we go.
And it's I wonder who
Oh
that is.
yeah.
J.D. Crowe makes it hard to follow, but let's get with it here. All right. This is a song here that J.D. picked the banjo on. Wasn't a big hit, but it's sold enough we need on. It's a long way back to over yonder. My feet are getting mighty sore. I ain't coming back, you make your mind to wonder. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. Stay on this side of town, honey, I won't be around. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. I'll be a long time gone from you, baby. You'll never hear me knock up on your door. Thought you worked once I was crazy. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. Stay on the side of town, honey, I won't be around. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. Do that one more time, you sound good. Would you? Chop it down. I'll be a long time gone from you, baby. You'll never hear me knock up on the door. Thought you were once I was crazy. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. Stay on your side of town, honey, I won't be around. My walking shoes don't fit me anymore. Hey! Thank you! Have fun, everybody! Enjoy yourself! Woo! Oh, now! I was talking to J.D. Crowe back there. He played with me about 5 years. And on my way to the stage, I was talking to Bob Osborne. Me and him and Sonny, me and Bob played together about 2-3 years, something like that, hacked around together. And J.D. Crowe said he had to go somewhere else to play. He has a hard living, you know. He has to go someplace else to play and make money. I wouldn't say hard living. He's making more than I make, so he plays here, then goes someplace else to make a lot of money. But he said, tell you folks that he would be on the show with us tomorrow. And that way we can get together and have a lot of fun with J.D. Crowe and everything. Pick the 5 chain back. Hey, you know it? Yes, sir. J.D. Crowe can't pick no louder than I can holler. I'll tell you that right now. Woo!
That's true.
Yeah, okay.
We had some friends. Enjoy yourself. That's what it's all about. Have fun. If you feel like hollering, you holler. If you feel like sitting there, just sit there and cool it. Hey, don't climb over, buddy. Sit down. Whatever you do. What? Get Parade of Love. What else? All right. That's good. But we'd like to do Shackles and Chains for some people that has fed all the Sunny Mountain Boys and everybody else with all kinds of chicken and hamburgers. And one of them is Dick. What's Dick's last name? Dick Neal and the Neal family and his beautiful wife. Dick ain't too good, but he says he is. Yeah. He said, Jimmy, if I didn't like you, I'd tell you what, I wouldn't give you the time of day. I said, I don't need the time of day. I got Mickey Mouse to tell me all my time. Who was the other people? Step over here just a minute. Playing this microphone is much better. Playing there with Ray. This boy here is helping us out on fiddle. We'll tell you who he is in a minute. But who is the other people? Have you got their names wrote down? Before I forget it, so they won't say I'm a liar, because I hate for somebody to call me a liar if he ain't a drunk. If he's a drunk, he can call me 15 liars, because he don't know what in the hell he's talking about. Now, wait. Now, the fiddle player's supposed to read that off. So he says he's like me. He didn't get to education. You can go ahead and read it off. Now, let's read it off. You can't read no down better than I can. You'll have to raise it up by about 3 foot. That's okay. Okay, we got Dick Neal, Carol Neal, Doc Thompson, Terry Fowler, Bryce Black. Too fast. Okay, let's go down here. Commercial. Dick Neal. I like Perino. I don't care who sings. I know them. Dog food's finest hour. So we got Dick Neal, Carol Neal, Doc Thompson, Terry Fowler, Bryce Laughlin, Russ Falls, the Booker family, and Bob Hope. Bob Hope. Hi, Bob. It's good to have you at the Bluegrass Festival.
Well, this got bizarre real quick.
There's one they wanted. Shackles and Chains. Somebody start off. What you doing? On a long, lonesome journey I'm going. So, darling, please don't you cry. These shackles and chains they're gonna take me to prison till I die. Put your arm to these bars, was my darling. Let me kiss those sweet lips again. Hearted, you're my consolation. Any sorrow, my heavenly offering. Thank you. And at night through these bars, I will gaze at the stars and long for your kisses in vain. A piece of stone I will use for my pillow while I'm sleeping in shackles and chains. On a long, lonesome journey I'm going. So darling, please don't you cry. These shackles and chains are gonna take me to a prison to live till I die. Thank you. Thank you. Let me real quick introduce the boys to you. Besides this boy right here. Oh, wait just a minute. I want Crow to hear this. Crow knows that I love him and everything in the world, think he's the best. Me and him has worked many a night in the club for $5 and tips, and sometimes not even for that, for $2 in tips. Sometimes we done good if we walked out. We have to walk out the back door, keeping out fight in the front. But I'll tell you, Crow knows what I'm talking about up in Detroit. But anyhow, I appreciate it, and I hope he's doing good, and I know he is. He's making a lot of money. He's making so much he can't even work with me no more because I like to starve him to death. But anyway, we recorded an album that featured J.D. Crowe and an instrumental album, and the next to him was Bill Emerson, who is one of the best five-string banjo players that I know, him and J.D. Crowe, that I've ever had with me. And J.D. Crowe, we said, well, we're going to record Bugle Call on the Rag. Recorded it and said he wrote it. So, but anyway, I said, let's name it something where I can get all the pay in, J.D., me and you. So me and him named it Crow on the Banjo. It's Bugle Call Rag. Since Crow can't play it with us tonight, we have Buzzard to do it for you. So, Buzzard, if you will, cut loose on Crow on the Banjo and carry Crow out of here. Let Buzzard go. Let's go. Like that. Right up, please. Please, Buzzard. Give him a nice hand. You like that? I thought he done a good job. For Buzzard, I thought he done a good job. Little Steve.
For what?
For Buzzard.
For Buzzard.
Thank you. Pretty crude. He was such a good player, you know.
Oh yeah.
Here's Flora to sing. Sometimes they think I drank so many Coca-Colas I forget. I looked around her. I said, I did introduce you, didn't I?
No.
We've had so much fun. We do with everybody. We can't drink a Coke with everybody, but we try. Have fun, though. We're with you. We'll be here with you as long as we can hold our eyes open till wee hours in the morning. Y'all have fun. Let's listen to Gloria do one on her tape recorder and everything for her dad and mother and for all you people out there, because you left me to die, honey, like a poor old tramp on the street. All right?
Only a tramp was what you said, he lay down at rich man's bed. He begged for the crumbs rich man to eat, and they left him to die a break on the street. He was some mother's darling, he was some mother's son. Once he was fair, and once he was young. Some mother's darling, but not into sleep, and they left him to die a break on the street. If Jesus should come and knock at your door, our place to come in, bread from your store, let you welcome him in, turn him away, and God would reward you on the great judgment day. Jesus who died on Calvary's tree, shed his last blood for you and for me. They pierced his side, nailed his feet, and they left him to die like a tramp on the street. He was Mary's own darling, he was God's chosen son. Once he was fair and once he was young. Mary, she loved him, but not into sleep, and they left him to die like a tramp on the street.
Let's do one more and then take it
Give her a
back.
nice hand, would you? Left him. Left him to die like a tramp on the street. She has that on record. Billy, you do a
Lord
good
have
job.
mercy.
You don't play the fiddle regular anymore, do you?
No,
I just, huh?
haven't been playing lately.
Huh?
Haven't been playing lately.
Lately? What do you mean by lately? I never heard that. No words but Sneevil. I haven't been playing lately. Sometimes they say I haven't played none in a long time.
Haven't played in about 3
You know, I haven't seen.
No, there's no right answer.
No, no, no.
Stop listening in. She'll kill you, buddy. She's about twice as smart as you are. I can tell. I can tell by her talk. You better watch it. You know what I mean?
Oh God.
He does a good job on his fiddle. He gets a good tone out of it, don't you think so? Thank you. One guy said down here, let him fiddle one. Let him fiddle one. Okay. Orange Blossom Special. They're getting my guitar fixed. They've got me. You tune it up for me. See if it's in. Chris Warner got it in tune. I tell you what, I'd like to tell you folks something, if you may, and if I may for just a minute. But everywhere that me, the Osborne brothers, I don't know about J.D. Crowe because he plays at the Holiday Inn and they all stay at home every night, you know. But boy, I'll tell you what, I ain't going to shoot you because if I do, your mother and dad hate me. But anyway, what I'm talking about, we travel all over the country, everybody out of Nashville. You take me, well, you won't have them in the first place. But anyway, you take me, I have to pay for all the Sunny Mountain Boys rooms everywhere we go. Bob and Sonny, he likes singing. One guy over here hollered, carry on. They wanted to hear Billy Baker over here do the Orange Blossom Special. So. Let me show you. I'd like to do that for the guy over there.
Love the B string.
I hate to do anything and it out, don't you? Okay.
Well, that kind of makes for a good segue there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you remember first time you met Jimmy Martin?
Yeah. Um,
Not Mike. I can't hear you.
can you
Wait,
hear
wait.
me now?
Wait a minute.
I can hear it.
Okay. Okay. Sorry. Let me. I got another browser
Here's one
here.
we'd like to do for you that's
Got
sold a lot.
It's
Put
kind
a
of,
gag over him there. So we
you don't want it to be too slick, you know.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But you have a pretty interesting first encounter with Mr. Jimmy Martin, the king of bluegrass.
Yeah. I should say first, before I before I tell this thing, that like after this whole thing, I got really into Jimmy Martin's music. From playing with well Steve Sutton, who was playing banjo on the show. We're playing with him and Rhonda's band, and he he really, yeah, to be around him and Audie Blaylock and then later Tom Adams, who had all played with Jimmy.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot from those guys, and a lot of it was, stuff that they picked up, learned from Jimmy, and still, applied to their music,
Yeah.
mainly timing and groove. I didn't really understand. I knew if something wasn't clicking or whatever, but
Right.
and I could tell if something slowed down or sped up or whatever, but I never really played with anybody that just locked into a groove, that just went for days, But anyhow, so I
That's your
just,
disclaimer. Okay.
yeah, well, no, my disclaimer is that I did get to meet and be around Jimmy after this, and had some really good experiences uh, playing music with him. But I never did play in his band or anything. But so this first thing, the first time I met him was at Spigma one year, and I think I was about 13 or 14, and we had just I don't know, the year before or something is when Pete Warnick had that whole youth all-star band play there at Owensboro. It's me and Cody Kilby and Chris Steele and Josh Williams and Brady Stockdale playing bass.
Yeah.
So I guess Jimmy had seen me playing. He was in the audience for that. And so like a year later, we're walking around Stigma, me and my grandpa. And my grandpa saw Jimmy standing over there. I don't know if by his record table or whatever. And he said, "Oh man, there's Jimmy Martin. Let's go meet him." I was like, "Yeah, great." And I had heard a few of his records, but I hadn't heard any of the stories. So I had no clue. Like I just I really didn't know anything about him. Other than
you didn't know what you're walking into.
I had no clue, dude. I had no idea. So I go over there, with my grandpa, and he said, "Jimmy, this boy would like to meet you. His name is Michael Cleveland." And Jimmy shakes my hand, and doesn't say anything for like a minute. He just keeps shaking my hand, and then all of a sudden, it's like, "Do you listen to Jimmy Martin records?" And I said, "Yeah." And then, he just stood there for another minute, and he goes, "You're a fiddle player, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You played up there with them kids at IBMA, about a year ago." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Go get your fiddle and go backstage and tune up with my boys. I'm going to get you up on stage and do one." And so I'm like, okay, so we went and got the fiddle, and we go back there, and this is like 94 or something. So the band was Ray playing mandolin, and Larry Wallace on the banjo, and Mark Kirkendall playing bass. It's the first time I met Mark.
Yeah, he's a good friend for sure.
Yeah, great player too. And a guy named Greg Gehring was playing the fiddle. And so they're back there and they're all jamming, and Mark's playing the guitar. And his girlfriend or wife, or at the time, like she was playing bass. And so we're like playing a few tunes. Jimmy hadn't got there yet, so we're just jamming, And and then Jimmy comes in, and the first thing, is like, he looks at Mark, guy playing guitar, his bass player. "Mark, you better get back here on your bass. Your girlfriend's becoming a better bass player than you are. And so I'm standing there, and he's like, all right, we're gonna, what we'll do is we'll bring you out, and you play the Orange Blossom Special. And I said, yeah, sure, and he said, all right, we're gonna bring you out, and when we bring you out, I want you to say, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Monroe is the father of bluegrass, but Jimmy Martin is the king. And so imagine what ran through I'm thinking, he's got to be kidding, right? He has got to be kidding. But we ran through the tune, and played it a couple times. And now don't forget, when I bring you out there, I want you to, Bill Monroe's the father of bluegrass music, but Jimmy Martin's the king. And I'm thinking, man, how am I going to get out of this? Because I played with Bill a couple times, just, jammed or whatever, so I didn't want to. I think maybe I had heard something about, this thing about, Bill not let Jimmy on the Opry. And I guess I figured it had something to do with that. But, obviously, I didn't want in the middle of it. But so we're back there, and I'm talking to my dad, I'm like, man, what do I do? And he's like, well, I had no idea. He's got to be kidding, And he just kept saying, they've run through songs, and then now don't forget, now don't forget, now when I bring you out, Bill Monroe's the father of bluegrass music, but Jimmy Martin's the king. Okay, and so they go on. And, the shows at Stigma are like 20 or 30 minutes. And he's on about 40 minutes. And we're waiting back there. And along with the next band that's supposed to go on, they're ready to kill him as soon as he comes off stage. Well, so he finally calls me out there. And he's telling this story about this friend of his that, like, killed himself, and like that there are tears of happiness and tears of sadness. And then Mike Cleveland standing here, a little blind boy, say howdy to him. And so I said, well, hey everybody, it's great to be here at Stigma. I want to thank Jimmy Martin for having me on the show. And we're going to play the Orange Blossom Special. Silence. Of course, he had to kick it off. It's guitar intro. So I'm standing there, and then all of a sudden I hear, keep on talking. And I'm thinking, oh, God. And so I said a little bit more. I said, well, we're really, really happy to be here. This is a song that was written by Irvin Rouse, and Chubby Wise, made this tune popular, and it's called the Orange Blossom Special. Keep on talking. And I don't know how many times we did that whole thing. And I finally said it, it's like, ladies and gentlemen, Bill Monroe's the father of bluegrass music, but Jimmy Martin's the king. And of course, the crowd goes nuts. Jimmy, he just acts shocked that I would say something like that. And just like, listen to that right there. He was just all about it. And then kicked off the song. And so then, I played the song and got off stage as fast as I could, And then after that, I started hearing all the Jimmy Martin stories. It's like, oh
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I do want to say again, that was my first impression of him. But there was still a lot to his music uh, that I really, even after that, got seriously into. And my dad never could understand. Why the hell you want to buy his records after all that? But that's my first Jimmy Martin story.
That's a good one.
Well,
There's Jimmy, and then there's his music.
Right. Yeah, and there's also, I gotta say, there's Jimmy on stage, and there's Jimmy just hanging out.
yeah.
And that's two different things also.
Yeah.
And when there's no cameras around or no crowd or anything like that, and you're sitting around and you're playing, that's that was really cool. The couple times I got to experience that, Audie and Tom, or Steve, would tell me about that, and to get to experience that a couple times was really cool and refreshing.
Yeah.
After all that,
Yeah.
trip.
I had sort of a personal connection because Thomas Haglund, who is you might say mentor of me since my living in Sweden. Thomas
Yeah,
had played with Jimmy Martin uh, a couple of stints, I guess, and
yeah,
Jimmy really liked him. And whenever I would see Jimmy, that it wasn't that often, but whenever we would just kind of talk about our mutual friend, and he always had good things. I never saw him too acting too wildly. Well, that's another story. There's some stories we can't tell about Jimmy.
probably.
Yeah, should you don't want to say something and then regret.
But the thing about it, though, the thing that is kind of, you have to admire about the whole thing is like, you know, it was Jimmy Martin. It was real. It wasn't like,
Yeah,
you never knew what was going to happen. You really didn't. You know, and there was something about that. But as far as connecting with an audience, or connecting with people sitting out there, drinking a beer, having a good time,
right.
or whatever. I mean, he could relate to all those people.
Yeah, his music was fantastic at
Oh
times.
yeah,
Yeah, again, he had some songs that weren't that good, really, but most of his writing is great, and the performance, the execution, is powerful.
yeah. It's sometimes it's hard to look past, the other stuff that's
Yeah,
going on,
yeah,
and but when you really start listening to those records, and even the songs that are a little corny or whatever,
right.
like the instrumentation, like the instrumental arrangements that
Oh,
that
wow.
they did to that stuff, it really, really commercial sounding.
Yeah. Well, I think with those that Benny Martin played on those recordings with Jimmy Martin,
Yeah,
that's some of the best bluegrass ever recorded, I think.
yeah, yeah, honey, you don't know my mind, and
Yeah, I mean it doesn't get much better than that.
no,
Let's see here. Well, let's go on and play a few more numbers here.
all right,
Let's see here. Orange. So we're gonna listen to one of Jimmy's biggest hits here.
Plot farce, one called Honey, You Just Don't Know My Mind. Baker knows how that Honey, you don't know my mind. I'm lonesome all the time. You made it tough, let's keep it that way. When I find I can't win, I'll be checking out again. Baby, you don't know my mind today.
Yeah, man. You
I
studied,
heard the record.
yes, sorry.
I'm sure you do worry. When I find I can't win, I'll be checking out again. Baby, you don't know my mind today. Heard the music on the rail, flipping every dirty jail. Life's too short, you to worry. When I find I can't win, I'll be checking out again. Baby, you don't know my mind today. Thank you. Thank you so much. We'd like to get a banjo player who's used to work with the Sunny Mountain Boys. And I'm sure that my son has heard me talk about this boy many, many times. I would have loved, and I want him to hear this, and he knows this when he left, to come back to live in Pennsylvania and make his home up here. He's from the good state of Pennsylvania, and he was a good boy, never did argue with me, and played a good banjo, and I would give anything in the world if he would have stayed with me. He would have made me one of the finest five-string banjo players and the finest workers in the doggone country, and his name is Little Chris Warner. I want him to come out and play one from the good state of Pennsylvania. Make Chris feel welcome, would you? Little Chris Warner, we call him. Huh? He looked at me and he said, just name any of them you want to do, Jimmy, and I'll play one, any one of them. That's what I'm talking about. It's hard to find somebody that knows them all, and he knows a little bit of everything I do. Chris, come around here just a minute. And I want you people to make him feel welcome, because I'm sincere when I say this. He's one of the finest Sunny Mountain boys that I've ever had working the road with Jimmy Martin. I want you to make him feel welcome from the good state of Pennsylvania. Let me say this. I hope someday when I need a banjo player, I can call him and he can move back down to Nashville and decide to go back to work with me. So, Chris, it's nice. What would you like to play? Ain't that great? From the good state of Pennsylvania. You should give him a great big hand. Everybody out there, give Chris Warner a big hand. He does such a good job. Thank you. Oh,
Hometown boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
That's playing to the crowd, you know.
back there saying,
Yeah.
let's try that again. Let's try that end again. I said, well, you know, the mistakes he made just taking the break. Shut up! We'll play what we want to.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Here's one I want to hear Chris play. I know you'll enjoy it. One, since Ralph Stanley's not here, I want to say thank you to the man that's running the sound system. Usually I blow the tubes out a few of them, but we ain't blowed them out this one tonight. He's got a good sound system here, hasn't he? Huh? You folks enjoy it. All right. Here's one that Ralph Stanley made a million seller, and we're going to do a verse. Let Chris kind of start it off, called Little Maggie. Slap your hands and holler if you'd like, all right? Oh, you understand, little Maggie, with a damn glass in her hand, she's drinking away her trouble, ain't quite another man. Oh, Maggie, go well, little Maggie, run into the best you can. I'll get me another woman. You can get you another.
Well, that would be a good place to stop right there. We have a surprise guest here, Mike Bob. It's good to have you on here.
I'm back.
How's it going?
Dude.
It's going good. Going good. Just sitting here watching the world go by
Yeah.
out my front window.
Yeah. Uh, it's nothing better than doing something like this to fight loneliness, I think.
Yeah, right. Well, thank God for the internet,
Yeah, I know it.
Hope it doesn't break.
You must be in Tennessee, Mike,
Yes, sir.
because the sun's down here. We saw out your window. You're an hour or so behind us there.
Yep.
It's going to leave you.
We're just getting a little sunset here now.
Sherlock Holmes, you are so observant always, Dan. You should be like a detective or something. Always have that.
It's funny. I was just talking to a guy, Sean Sullivan, the guy that makes Michael's records, an engineer. I was just talking to him about Jimmy Martin just a minute ago. We were on the phone talking about him. I turn on the Facebook, and here you guys are, and telling my favorite Michael's Cleveland Jimmy Martin story.
Oh, dude.
Keep talking.
Yep. That's the one.
Lord have mercy.
Hey, it must be true because it's written on the side of the bus, and a blind boy wouldn't lie. He must be the king. He did write it on his bus, did he?
Yeah,
Yeah, his tombstone also.
I didn't know that. That's pretty final there.
Yeah. The story I heard was he had that whole thing. How long before he died, did he have that tombstone and had all everything written on it like he wanted? Mike?
At least years, 5 years or more, because
I was getting ready to say,
Marty Stewart took his picture standing next to it.
My God.
Yeah.
Yes.
But hey, I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you something. If you want your tombstone to be right, do it yourself.
Yeah.
You may not want to leave it up to somebody else to get it right.
Right.
Especially for Jimmy Martin.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Mike, you mentioned something about that Jimmy was a perfectionist, and the proof is in his records. Do you have any? Did you play with him any?
I played several great shows with Jimmy Martin, and I also got to record with him a couple times. Matter of fact, I recorded with him and Benny Martin on a Benny Martin project.
Wow.
And that was really that's where one of the greatest quotes of all time was uttered by Jimmy Martin. And he said, the guy said, "Hey, Jimmy," the guy who was producing the records, Hugh Moore over there in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked Jimmy, he said, "Jimmy, how come you can't recreate some of those old duets you used to do with Bobby Osborne and record some of those things? That would be a lot of fun to do." And he goes, "Well, I'll tell you, there's two things in this business that keep things like that from happening. One is jealousy, and the other is stupidity." And I said, "Jimmy, you just said a mouthful right there." So from that point on, jealousy and stupidity is just from me telling that story now. That's a viral quote of Jimmy Martin's. Everybody says it now. Yeah. But a lot of people don't know, it's gotten a long way from the source of it, but that's when it happened, was at Jimmy Martin's or Benny Martin's session with Jimmy Martin. They cut Milwaukee Here I Come, which Benny Martin wrote that song. And he told me that he put it in his wife's name because back then you didn't want to have to pay as much in taxes or whatever. So you put your song in your wife's name. That's why Flat Scruggs always use their wives' names and stuff. So that if something happened to them, it would continue on to them, I guess, is what the reason was. But But I remember him asking Hugh, he said, "Now, where's my tenor man going to be?" He said, "Well, he's going to be over in that booth over there, Jimmy." He said, Well, hell, you can't tell me you're going to have a singer over there in a booth trying to sing with me out here. He said, "If he's a weak singer, you'll just turn him up and have a loud, weak singer. You got to have him out here where I can help him." And if you look at the Jimmy Martin box set, there's a couple of pictures in there of them recording. There's two recording session photographs in there. And they are just gathered around these microphones so close And those records are they're just as live as can be. There's no overdubs on that stuff. I mean, they got in there close and tight and sang on a couple of microphones, just shoulder to shoulder, basically. And it sounds like it. That's why they sound so damn good. It's just they're well rehearsed, and they were sing and played close together where they could hear. There's no headphones or anything. They just got in tight and did it.
No. You compare him to put him up there with George Jones, Mike.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's very few people that have the kind of control of their voice like Jimmy had.
Yeah.
And Jimmy was so studied, and he kind of comes from the same place that George Jones does, because if you see any George Jones interviews, he'll always say his three biggest influence were Bill Monroe, Roy Acuff, and Hank Williams, and maybe Lefty Frizzell. Then later on, when he got connected with Johnny Paycheck, I think Paycheck had a lot of influence on him, or they had on each other. Right. But Jimmy Martin comes from the same place, Roy Acuff and Bill Monroe, and that tape that you have of Tony Rice sitting in with Jimmy Martin that's on your page, is on your YouTube page, is just one of the greatest things ever. And he imitates Roy Acuff on there, and it's unbelievable how good it is.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and does Bill Monroe impersonation, and it's incredible.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, you find some just priceless stuff on these old tapes,
Yeah. But, he wasn't an act. He was an entertainer. I mean, he had, there's something about people like that. Most of us, I think, generally, we all try to just kind of blend in. We all want to kind of be in with everybody. But there are extroverts out there who understand that you got to rise up above the crowd somehow. You got to have some kind of, you can call it flamboyancy or you can call it whatever, but it's being an alpha and confident. And he was so confident in what he did. That, and he knew he could do it and he could back it up. There's tapes of him on the Opry where he just absolutely just wrecks the place,
Yeah. I mean,
and
on this show here too, man, it's some powerful singing. It's so dynamic and so expressive. He can go from like a weak crying voice to that last chorus where it's just like a big wall of sound.
Yeah, right. He just had so much swagger and rhythm.
Yeah.
And a lot of those guys had it. Benny Martin had it like that. Benny Martin, to me, was like the Jackie Gleason of bluegrass. The guy was so light on his feet and had just so much charisma and character and swagger that it was unmistakably good,
And so accurate and so in the early, like the 53 recordings with Flatt and Scruggs, it's so much new stuff that you don't really hear anybody. It's his own stuff he came up with.
Yeah, it's very original.
Yeah,
it's hard to be original nowadays. Everybody's drawing from what came before. And there's so much repetition in the music. I mean, to me, the hardest thing to do in bluegrass is to create something new within the parameters of what we consider traditional bluegrass, or what I consider traditional bluegrass. It's really easy to bring outside influences in and interpret them as bluegrass.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say it's easy. I'm just saying that's a more common way. But to create something new within the genre that's very original, it's very difficult to do because the songs, it really comes down to the songs and the relevancy of the lyrics and all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, it's interesting how people still write bluegrass songs about trains.
Right.
Because Dan, you're a statistician. Like how many people really have traveled by train in the U.S.
Yeah. We might be getting back to that very soon. We never.
Yeah, no kid.
Yeah.
I'll take a train.
Drive-ins.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Well, a train's not COVID friendly though, but Bill Monroe did the horse race and the train.
Yeah.
He had the horse and the train race one another.
I think we should have UFC fight in bluegrass.
Yes.
I went to UFC fight here back in earlier this year, and
That's what you call a glutton for punishment.
Yeah. But I used to love boxing, and then I got into watching MMA. But I got to go to a live event, and then it sort of struck me that this is just like the bluegrass festival circuit. They travel all over the world basically, but it's the same characters, the same drama in that subculture as it is in bluegrass.
Yeah, bass fishing is like that too. Same
Yeah.
thing.
Okay. Yeah. Probably most interesting.
It's a scene. It's just a scene. NASCAR on a way larger scale is the same thing.
Yeah.
You have these groups of fans that follow these sort of lead guys or whatever, and they follow them from track to track or whatever. It's very similar.
Yeah, and dog shows and everything.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's listen to a little more of Jimmy Martin there. Did you want to say anything, Mike, about the anything about that, or Billy Bates?
Man, I'm good. I'm good listening to all this. I love these stories.
What year is this, by the way? I missed the beginning of it.
74.
74. So who was that? Who was playing banjo with him then?
Steve Sutton.
Oh, Steve. All right. One of my all-time favorites. Now, there was a guy who could play in a very original style of banjo and within the parameters of what you call traditional bluegrass.
Yeah.
Nobody played like that guy. Nobody.
No.
Nope. He had his own thing. I mean, he could play. Yeah, he could play Earl or the stuff that Crow played. Or
he could sing
whatever,
and play backup up the neck without even thinking twice about it.
Yeah.
But more than anything, he knew how to just play melody so well. Just dig the melody out of that roll.
The sound of his roll. There's something with that guy's right hand.
Yeah.
And Mark Pruitt has that same thing. Like, and I don't know what to call it, but.
Well, they played a lot of music together, so I'm sure there's a relationship there to their picking.
They go back. They live in the same area around Nashville.
Yeah,
they've been friends forever, and as you said, they've been both in Martin's band and not maybe at the same time, but they had a lot of.
And I wouldn't discount the influence of Raymond Fairchild on either one of them in that style, because Raymond was like a machine. He could just roll to the next county on that banjo like nobody's business.
Yeah. Well, that's great. So I'm going to go back to the other playlist, and we'll listen to some more Jimmy Martin and the Sunny Mountain Boys at Gettysburg, August 17th, 1974.
Now saying to little Chris Warner and all the people, all right?
Little Chris.
Thank you. We'd like to do that especially for Raymond Sullivan and also his dad, John, and also what's the other boy that you like so good there? Fuzzy face with Sam. Old Sam. We'd like to do that. All the Sullivan family who likes Jimmy Martin and all bluegrass festivals, they come and visit with us. So we'd like for you folks to make welcome right now, and we want to get her out here. She recorded our last album, a song in it, and we'd like for you to get her and make her feel welcome and give a nice hand for our little daughter, Lisa Sarah Martin. Would you give a nice hand for her? Have fun, everybody. You know what Neil is. Here. I was born in the Southland.
I think Lisa got edited out.
Yeah, I guess so.
Don't let them play with us, Chris. Get right in here. You wasn't born in the Southland, but you got a little of it in you. That's all. 20 some odd years ago. You have fun. That's what we're here for. You can go back home now, son. They got your cage cleaned out. I ran away for the first time. on my back. I know every time, every foot of the back road, every mile of railroad track. Party down in Cincinnati, got a woman in San Antonio. Said I would love the girl next door, but any place is home, and we gon' play. My home is on my back. I know every highway, every foot of the back road, every mile of railroad track. Well, I got this one out guitar. I carry no tone sack. Said I would love the girl next door, but any place is home, we gon' play.
Watch me, boys.
Yes.
On my back. I know every highway, every foot of the back road, every mile of railroad track. I'm a free-born man. My home is on my back. I know every highway, every foot of the back road, every mile of railroad track. I cried again.
I cried again. That's one that Baker played on.
Thank you. You folks want a boogie boogie. Hello, piece of where we work for we came here. Working in the brewery, making the finest beer. Hey, now let's go to Tennessee. We get down to Grand Ole Opry. Everything on TV, we're talking about. I said that gal.
Oh.
You're right there. Find out where she's at. I'm bringing on the dirt bike and I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna leave this town to the side. Most of my always tired me. You want me back on the Nashville, Tennessee. I'm going now, train on Ford Farm. I'm going now, train on Ford Farm. I might get all messed up and trade it for a roll. One thing I know for sure, I'll always be blue. There ain't no way to get drunk enough to talk about loving you. So I'm going on your touch like I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna leave this town to decide which one you want the most of office darn me. You want the California National Tennessee. I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna ride. I'm gonna leave this town to decide which one you want the most of office darn to me. You want the California National Tennessee. Which one you want the most, little Possum Jones and me? You want the California National Tennessee.
That bass sounds like a tuba.
Yeah.
He could sell it, man.
I assume you want more of Jimmy Martin, dude.
Ray Davis.
Ray Davis, yeah.
You're going to have to holler. You know how temperamental he is. He won't come back unless you.
Yeah.
Keep talking.
Yeah.
Jimmy Martin and all the Sunny Mountain Boys.
Ain't it good to have fun? Enjoy yourself. Dip in your coolers and get with it. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, boy. Yeah.
Let's do one. Earl Scruggs made $1 million sellers. What? One guy said, "You all right, Jimmy? You all right, Jimmy?" You are too, buddy. I'll tell you, I can't see what you look like. The lights are so bright. But come up to my camper, I'll find out. Roll in my Sweet Baby's on. Get it.
Yeah.
Have fun, everybody. Well, ain't gonna work on no railway. Ain't gonna work on no farm. Around the shack, you will train the fire and roll it. Sweet baby. Roll it, sweet baby. Roll it, sweet baby. You will train the fire and roll it. Sweet baby. Having fun? Mama is a beauty out there. Read and play. If it's that old ball, I'm rolling. Rolling, sweet baby. Rolling, sweet baby. Little Chrissy there. Where were you last Friday night while I was down in jail? Walking the streets with another man when he was going out. Oh, my sweet baby. Oh, my sweet baby. Oh, around the shack, they'll train and rolling, sweet baby.
Let's do about 2 more, and then we take a break. Talk a little
They're going crazy.
It's going nuts.
Yeah. They're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 encore
Jim
numbers.
says he won't do that. How'd you like to have him do Will the Circle Be Unbroken?
He's out there dipping in the cooler right now. Sorry.
You're making me feel like I'm somebody and I ain't worth a damn. Tell you too.
Seagrams.
Hey,
Yeah.
let me tell you folks. Listen at me. We're going to do a song called "Will the Circle Be Unbroken." We want everybody to sing with us.
That's not the song list says.
This is the one I'm supposed to get in here. Come on. Howdy. How y'all?
This was, yeah, this.
Some guy said fine. Okay.
Next show.
Yeah. Yeah.
A scrawny from Kentucky, she's my little man. I can't even kiss her, can't even hold her hand. It's lovely, just a hot shot. Come on and leave on, kiss out and dream on. That is to be my motto. So I am not so lonely, let me so lonely. Now that you're up in my heart. I used to see pretty girls from Alabama, very much at first, and I never lied. I've seen so many pretty eyes, they were pretty tears. I've been fucking too much, now I have my fear. Love 'em and leave 'em, kiss 'em and dream 'em. That used to be my motto, so I feel my soproni, let me so lonely. Now let's drop it. If they close it bugle, I'll be a loving that sweet girl. He means more to me than the whole wide world. I used to be a killer, it's a me you're mine. I'm just a hot shot with a drop in my eye. Love 'em and leave 'em, kiss 'em and dream 'em. That used to be my motto, so hot. Till my soproni left me so lonely. Now let's rock and roll. Thank you.
Oh yeah.
Well, I see them. You what? Rebel soldier. I really don't know. I really don't know who recorded that Rebel Soldier, but I know we didn't. But it's a good song, but I don't know the lyrics to it. I wish I did. Good. What? Tennessee. All right.
Well, Eskimo Road to the root.
That one.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I've heard of that one too. Good. Let me say howdy to you. It's good to be back at the festival. And as we always say, have you folks enjoyed yourself up until now all day long? Have you? Some guy said, yeah, well, I hope we don't come out here and spoil it. All right? Now, teardrops fell the night you said, I love you, dear, you were wed. I watched you while you held his hand.
That's what I'm talking about right there.
Yeah, man.
Yep.
I cried again when I reached home. I said your picture all along. I thought of things that might have been. And
You know it.
my head and cried again. I took your letters from the shelf and read them loud just to myself. And just before I reached the end, I turned again.
Yeah.
Now here's the reason why I say that I must throw your things away. For they would always bring me pain. And then I'd only cry again. And then I'd only cry again.
How can you not love that?
That's the singing right there.
Thank you.
I mean, that's so.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. They got my mic turned up plenty loud.
Yeah.
Man, let me hear them out. All right.
I don't even
We're
want
going to
to.
let you hear them real good right now. Let me introduce the boys to you real quick. Because every time I play Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, I always have somebody new on a different instrument or a new picker. And lots of them goes off and says they don't make a living. A lot of them don't even show up to get their money and go on the show dates and everything. So over on my left is the boy that come to try out because a fellow by the name of Mark Pruitt didn't even show up for 2 show dates, and we had to have somebody. So he showed up in Mark's place, and he's been with us for about 2 months now. Does a real good job. Going back to college this fall. Been picking with us all summer. Nice hand from North Carolina, little Steve Sutton. Would you? All right.
Yeah, buddy.
I tried to reach Mark earlier.
Back with us on the electric bass guitar, and I must say she's a guitar bass, I should say. Looks like a guitar. Guitar, bass, fiddle, whatever you might call it.
Sounds like a tuba.
Yeah.
Monroe, and this past winter, she toured with a group of girls out of Nashville called the Kittens, or Kitty Club. She was a kitten. From the great state of Pennsylvania, nice hand for Dora Bell. All right?
Laura.
You've seen the show in the last couple of years. You've seen this one here try to pick everything. Our mandolin player didn't show up, put the mandolin under the bed at his trailer, locked the trailer up, left for Detroit, Michigan, and called us up and told us the key was in the mailbox for him to come out and get the mandolin. It was on the bed. So he's been trying to play the mandolin ever since. He said, well, you haven't got a mandolin player, Dad. I'll just go ahead and try to pick the mandolin for you. He's doing a pretty good job. He makes a lot of mistakes, but the people give him a hand sometimes for the sympathy.
For the sympathy.
Yeah. That's some encouragement there.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks. Thank you. Much obliged, lad. I hear you there. Now, I'm not going to sing one. You get your glasses off and behave yourself. I'm going to let these boys pick one. They can pick better than I can sing. We're going to let them pick an instrumental. The only one that my group has learned in the last 3 or 4 years is Train 45, so let's do it. All right? One of them's not married, one of them don't want to be married, and the other's fixing to get to.
Oh, man.
So you got to behave yourself. This is fixing to get married. I'll tell on him if he says anything or does anything wrong. Good to see you all so happy. That's a real good job. Some guy sitting over here with his shirt off said, hot ziggity, hot ziggity. Drinking him a great big Coke about that long. I never say 45s on the microphone. Coke 45. I don't say that on the mic where nobody could hear me.
Train 45s.
Yeah.
Nice hand for Laura Bell. She'll sing you one. She's got an album for you. Will you? Nice hand for her. Okay.
Thank you, Jimmy. Real nice to be back in Pennsylvania, back among home folks. Let's do one.
Good to see you.
Right. Let's do one that I have out on a single record.
Yeah, do it.
On one side is one of the old traditional songs called The Tramp on the Street. On the other side is this one. It goes like this, one called Keep on the Sunny Side. There's a dark and rough light of life. There's a bright side and a sunny side too. All we need with the dark and sky, the sunny side we also give you. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. He will help you every day. Feel brighten all your way. If you keep on the sunny side of For the storm and its fury break today. Crashing hopes that we cherish so dear. Dark clouds will in time pass away. The sun will shine again bright and clear. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help you every day. It will brighten all your way. If you keep on the sunny side of
Man, what a player.
All the moments we find our way. Let us trust in our Savior always. Who keeps everyone in the shade. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help you every day. It will brighten all your way. If you keep on the sunny side of life.
Let me go.
You're not saying I thought that was all right. Yes, sir. Keep on the sunny side. All right, sir. Getting better all the time. Howdy, how you? You enjoying yourself?
Okay. Well, let's share some thoughts on that. The bass is a little bit tuba sounding. You're right there. What kind of setup did you have? Do you think?
Glory Bells, she just had like a acoustic electric bass, like I don't know what brand it was. It wasn't a Fender Precision bass. It was more like a I don't know, one that had a hollow body to it. You know.
Oh, okay, like a Paul McCartney type, or
Yeah, or something like this. This one here. You know, that has the F holes in it and stuff.
oh yeah, okay. Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
Show and tell. Thank you.
And
Yeah.
probably had to drag a big Ampeg flip top amp around with her back then.
Yeah.
Probably weighed 1,000 pounds.
You think Jimmy carried for?
Yeah, I bet.
Well, no, but these boys here will.
Yeah. Ray will take care of that. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, so I have to say I don't know anything about Gloria Bell. Do you all know anything about what
Well,
happened?
she worked for Jimmy for a long time. She was married to a guy here in Nashville named Mike Long, who was a guitar builder. And of course, I haven't seen him in a long time, but
Yeah.
used to run into him here and there. And Mike Long used to come down to Station Inn quite a bit. He's a great guitar builder.
Okay.
And they may not even live in Nashville. They might live outside of Nashville somewhere. If they're still kicking, I'm not sure. I haven't heard much about them in a while.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, what is Ray up to these days? I haven't. I don't
Ray's
know.
mostly driving a tour bus,
Okay.
and well, he had been. He'd been working with a couple different artists, but what's that guy's name? Clay somebody. He's been on the road with that guy for a long time, but he was
Clay
driving
Walker or
tour.
somebody?
Clay Walker, that's it, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And but he's been driving a tour bus off and on. I did some dates with Jesse McReynolds a couple years ago,
Uh-huh.
and Ray drove us, and he was great. He was a lot of fun on the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
He's a hell of a bass player, Ray is. A lot of people don't realize that, but he's like a really great R&B and sort of a jazzy type electric bass player. And he can really play. He's good.
Yeah.
Talented guy.
Mike, you play some other instruments, don't you?
Yeah, I play a little guitar and banjo. I started out on banjo. That was my first instrument.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking. Did you ever play in the band with the banjo in the band?
Well, when I first started our band, Weary Hearts, that's when I really started playing the bass in earnest because Ron Block was our banjo player.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I just kind of let him, I let him take the reins on that. And then right before we moved to Nashville, Ron left our band, and so I kind of went back to playing the banjo. And we were using different bass players to fill in with us. One was a guy named Nick Haney, who since passed away, and then Marshall Wilburn played some gigs with us. And so basically when I got to Nashville, I was playing more banjo. Yeah. But I ended up getting more work playing the bass. And
I just had some vision of you all of a sudden playing the banjo in some context somewhere. But
yeah.
And then
we did a couple of years there. I played the banjo.
Yeah. Mike, you play the banjo too. I know.
Well, yeah, I'm a closet banjo player.
You ought to hear him play the Telecaster.
Yeah.
Rip it up.
I'm a closet telly player too. I actually sold it. I don't even have one anymore.
You don't need one. You just
don't have time for it.
Not.
You play everything on the top notch. Your mandolin playing is about as powerful as anybody's style.
Yeah.
Well, Mike Bubb played. Which of those Larry Cordell and Glenn Duncan albums did you play banjo on?
That was kind of my last thing that I did. That was my last hurrah on the banjo. Was the very first Larry Cordell, Glenn Duncan record called "Lonesome Standard Time."
Oh yeah,
that came out in '92, I believe.
Yeah, some good stuff.
And that was the same year that I went to work for Del McCurry. And what happened was that we made that record, and Del hadn't really moved to Nashville yet. And I had been waiting for a year. I've been talking to them for a year about coming to Nashville and going to work with them. And Jason actually joined the band in February of '92, and then I joined him in May, a couple months later. But Larry and Glenn Duncan at the time had never had any aspiration to travel or play festivals or anything. They were working like crazy here in Nashville at that time. Larry was, just knocking it out, writing songs, and of course Glenn was doing lots of session work.
Yeah,
and he kind of wrapped up his touring. He'd worked with everybody from Monroe, Jim Jesse, the Osborne Brothers, and he also worked, with Larry Sparks before he came to Nashville.
Yeah.
And then later on with Barbara Mandrell.
Oh, okay.
And so, he'd worked with nothing but Hall of Famers. I mean, his whole career he's worked with the greatest, But in the early '90s, that session work was just hard to walk away from. He was just working all the time. So I took the job with Del, and I had my sights on it for a while. Mm-hmm. But then we made that record, and then they kind of had to build a new band around it. Well, at least get a new banjo player after the record came out.
Yeah, that was a good album.
Yeah, great songs on there. I mean, it's and we recorded with Earl Scruggs on there, and Bill Monroe are both on that record with us.
That's right. Yeah. I need to dig that album out again. It's been a long time. And y'all's first band there, was it based out of Arizona or something?
Yeah, when we first started, I lived in Arizona.
Yeah.
And then two guys, Eric Uglum and Ron Block, they lived in Southern California.
Yeah.
And then we kind of came together with Butch Baldessari as our mandolin player, and he was in Las Vegas.
Okay. So
we were like in a 6-hour triangle from each other.
Yeah.
And but eventually we started working, and Butch was the one that had a vending business in Las Vegas of soda machines and candy machines and all these businesses and stuff. And so that allowed him to go out and travel on the weekends. He could fly out and meet us and stuff while we were grinding out the miles in the van.
Yeah.
And that's Butch Baldessari, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And then eventually Chris Chris Jones joined our band in around 87, 88.
Mhm.
And he was the first one to really encourage us to move to Nashville because he's the one he said that's where he wanted to wind up at. And so that's where we first got the idea to move to Nashville.
Yeah.
And so we ended up coming here right after IBMA in 1989.
Yeah, well, that's a fine band for sure.
We lasted about another year and a half, 2 years maybe. Then we started to splinter apart, you know.
Yeah. Well, it's a very, very interesting band, or unique sounding band, I think.
Yeah. We were on to something different. You know, we had some good material. We had a great, singer in Chris Jones up front, and then of course Ron was he's just such a strong musician. I mean, the guy was songwriter, singer, incredible guitar player and banjo player even back then. Probably has the greatest practice work ethic of anybody I've ever met. He's just
yeah, that's what I've heard too. He's really studious.
Yeah. Never lets up.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to a few more of these numbers here. They're not really all that.
Hey, I'd like to mention that I Cried Again. There's a YouTube video of Jimmy singing that at Sunset Park or something in 1958.
Uh-huh.
And he didn't record. I was looking at the box set here. He didn't record that song until when did he record it?
Late 60s, early 70s, something like that.
1971, he recorded that, and he did that with that was got Kenny Baker playing fiddle on that record. It's a great record. But you're hearing a guy who sang a song for 15 years. I mean, he just knows it so inside and out, and he just laid that thing out, man. It was so good.
Yeah, that's like the highlight of the show right there.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm talking about, his control that he had like George Jones and just interpreting those songs, man. He could just curve and sing the blues in there and put all those inflections in there like nobody's business.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of a blues man in his own way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. He was some of the best bluegrass I've ever recorded. I mean, that Martin box set, man, it's just a good investment if you.
Yeah.
Even if you just get disc one to me is just like it's the full spectrum, and everything is just gravy after that. But
yeah, great.
Because you hear him with the Osborne Brothers, and then you hear him with JD and Earl Taylor. Yeah. Then you hear the classic band with Paul Williams and JD.
Yeah.
And it's just so good. I mean, Voice of My Savior is just unbelievable. There's a song called, what is it? Something about home. It's Not Like Home.
Oh, yeah, it's not just like home unless you're here.
Killer song, and it's got a little recitation in it. It's just so good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean.
Foggy Old London, that's on there.
Yep, Foggy Old London. Yeah, those were all cut in the late 50s, 58, 59, 60.
Yeah, there was some powerful years there. But he's had several strong lineups over the years for sure.
Oh, yeah. Well, when you play music that good, you're such a good singer, you attract musicians to it,
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing, too, is, a lot of people don't realize this, but Jimmy Martin outsold Patsy Cline on the jukebox. He was one of the top jukebox sellers for Decca Records, and so a lot of those records, the way they were cut and the way that they sound is just ideal for a jukebox. Yeah. The jukebox has always had great bass in the the EQ.
Yeah, that's right. That's very interesting. I didn't know the fact that he outsold Patsy Cline. That's pretty incredible. Sure.
Yep.
So, so let's listen to a few more here.
Yes, sir. Did you get us all right? Get me on that camera real good. Yes, sir. Everybody boogie and have you a lot of fun, right? That's what you hear. Have fun. Some guy holler, let's go. Where? What? I heard the guy right down here in front of the stage say, "Sweet 16." About that age, too. Okay, we'll do Tennessee for you. You boys are ready?
Come on now.
You have heard and read about the state of Tennessee. Down in the southern states, that's where I want to be. They're so green and the mountains are so tall. You know just what I mean when you hear them say you are Tennessee. I hear you calling. I hear you calling me. Over there, the continent in the hills of Tennessee. When I was a little boy, my mother always said to me, "Now, Jimmy, please don't go. Down the line, where my heart is going for." When I think of Mommy, Dad, that's where I want to go. Tennessee. I hear you calling. I hear you calling me. Go home, Daddy, Crockett, in the hills of Tennessee. If ever I get back to that state of Tennessee, I tell her there'll be no waiting for me. My little sweetheart said she'd marry me as soon as I get back to the state of Tennessee. Tennessee. I heard you calling. I hear you calling me. The home of Daddy Crockett in the hills of Tennessee. Thank you. Have fun and enjoy yourself. All right. We don't do them all now. We'll do them after a while. It's good to see so many people enjoying themselves as we're picking bluegrass music. We're going to do you a gospel song from one of our gospel albums. We have 2 gospel albums out, which is now MCA. Used to be Decca Records, but I've been saying Decca Records now for the past 25 years, and so it's hard to say anything else, but it's MCA Records now, and we're a part of it. In fact, about it's been MCA nearly all the time. They just called it Decca. It was owned by MCA. We'd like to do a gospel song, and as we walked up to the fellow that's here in charge, his first name is John. His last name is Miller Jr. I believe that's it. He come to our bus and said that Carlton Haney's daddy passed away, and he couldn't be here till tonight. And sorry to hear anything like that, because my dad passed away when I was 4 years old. And I know what it means to never have a dad, and Carlton Haney did have one until just a few days ago. We'll sing this one in remembrance of Carlton Haney's great father and also him, and thank John for telling us one called "When the Savior Reached Down His Hands for Me." Once my soul was astray from the heavenly way. I was dead in my thanks to thee. But my Savior in me, He gave me peace from the Lord. When He reached down his hands for me. When the Savior reached down for me. When he reached down his hands for me. I was lost and undone without God or his Son. When he reached down his hands for me. How my heart does rejoice in a very sweet voice. In the tempest to him I can breathe, and there to lean on his arm, so secure from all harm. And his hands for me. When the Savior reached down for me. When he reached down his hands for me. I was lost and undone without God or his Son. When he reached down his hands for me.
Yeah.
Thank you. From one of our gospel albums, When the Savior Reached Down His Hands for Me. As I said, we had two out. Hope you folks enjoyed that. See another fellow that's smiling from the good state of Pennsylvania, who you've heard play the banjo many times, who's awful nice to me and the Sunny Mountain Boys, give us a place to stay and fed us real good, made us feel at home, and sent us a Christmas card and every other thing. Mr. Bill Runkle, standing propped up over there. Bill, it's good to see you.
Bill Runkle.
He used to.
They probably listen to your radio show, but here's something that we're real proud of. We got a brand new album just released by MCA. We was out to Bradley Studios to a session of Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty, and my little daughter went with me, and the band was cracking their fingers and trying to get the rhythm behind Loretta and them and get a good rhythm set, you know, and so my little girl was patting her hands together, and Owen Bradley hollered through the studios on the speaker, said, "Look at Jimmy Martin's little daughter there." I said, "She's got the rhythm, boys, just get with her." So after he said that, I went into him, and after the session's over, I said, "She goes around the house a-singing. She don't do too good a job, but she sings and entertains her little boy that's 8 years old, and her little brother, my little boy. And she enjoyed it, and I've watched her do it so much, so I asked him to let her record in my next album. So our album is just released. I've got her in there singing "You Are My Sunshine." And we're going to get her out here and like you to make her feel welcome. We named her after my mother, who has passed on. My mother's name was Sarah, and so her name is Lisa Sarah Martin. Give her a nice hand, our daughter, would you?
What an intro.
Yeah.
Don't get nervous now. For the first time, you know, just say howdy lightly to him.
Howdy.
And the one you got in the album, what's the name of it?
You are my sunshine.
You're coming along strong, ain't you? That's all right. You want me to start it out, I guess, Ray? You ain't never rehearsed it yet. Okay.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. The other night, dear, while I lay sleeping, I dreamed I held you in my arms. When I awoke, dear, I was again, and I hung my head and cried. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. You told me once, do you really love me? That no one else could come between. But now you left me for another. You have shattered all my dreams. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
That's a precious sound, you know.
The loving Father.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You like that?
It was quite precious, you know.
Huh? Thank you. Thank you. Now, if that would be one of the Sunny Mountain boys, I'd holler boo. But I'm not going to do that to her. She's been traveling with us every other week for the last month. This is about her second trip, and we let her go along one week and her little brother the next. And her little brother don't sing too much. He does at the house and says he'll sing if I let him come along. But we call them back, and he tells them that he's hoarse. He can't sing.
You don't hear boo.
Yeah, right.
Must have got there somebody else besides me. I can't sing either, but I can holler loud. Come on back, Lisa, honey. We'll let you sing another one. Another verse, sir. All right? I'll sing with you, all right? Let me start off again, Ray.
You told me once, dear, you really love me, that no one else could come between. But now you left me for another. You have shattered all my dreams. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
Take a bow, honey. Take a bow there. Take another bow. Take another bow there. Yeah. No, I won't say that either, buddy. You've done been dipping in your cooler too much. Thank you so much. Lots of people looked at me and said, well, she don't favor you. I said, that's okay. I'm feeding her. And she had an awful beautiful mother. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Ain't got to say that's what counts, ain't it? You're feeding her. Oh, he's coming on strong. I bet you he's been 15 times to the cooler. And it don't sound like it's been coaxed either, I'll tell you. Behave, son. They say I talk too much anyhow. I want to go ahead and sing one more song before we get out of here. All right. They told us to be out here about 30 minutes. We've already run over. All right. You know me, I like people. If I can't stay here, come over to our bus. We'll have our albums over there. I'll stick around with you then. We'll be right over to our little wheel bar that's got the Widowmaker on it over there and everything with our albums, books, cottage tapes. And by the way, we've got keychains, and it has
Cottage tapes.
stuff like that. If you want a picture with a keychain with our picture on it. And by the way, our keychain won't break. It's not kin to Watergate. It'll float, and Watergate's not already sunk, I believe. If it don't sink, I hope it does. Here's one we did last Friday night as we could go on the Grand Ole Opry. If you folks listened in to it last Friday night, the Friday night opera, you heard everybody in the auditorium slapping their hands while we sing this one right here. You want to, you slap your hands too, because you paid to get in here. Have fun. Let's do a little bit of Sunny Side of the Mountain. Now don't forget me, little darling, while I'm growing old and gray. Just a little talk before I'm going far away. I'll be waiting on the hillside when the day you will fall. On the sunny side of the mountain where the rippling waters fall. Now don't forget about the days we courted many years ago. Don't forget all the promises you gave me and so. I'll be waiting on the hillside when the day you would call. On the sunny side of the mountain where the rippling waters fall. Please tell me, darling, in your letter, do you ever think of me? Please answer me, darling, tell me where you can be. It's been so long since I've seen you, but your love still lingers on. Don't forget me, love, darling. Oh, our love affair seems long.
And so ends the Jimmy Martin live show.
Yeah, man.
That I don't know. It was some good listening. I thought.
It's
Yeah.
great.
You
That
know,
was sweet about his daughter. I've never seen that in him.
it was really cute. Yeah, I got down right. As a father, I thought it was very.
Yeah, sweet. I have never used with Jimmy Martin.
No,
Sweet. I call him sweet and unsavory.
Yes.
Let me tell you my Jimmy Martin story.
Oh, yeah.
It was 1971 at Camp Springs, I think, and I was a young feller, and people were coming down out of the parking lot, this clay bank down toward the stage, right at the stage, and they were all falling, every one of them. It was like it was raining. It was slick as slick clay. It was a sliding board. And Jimmy Martin come up, that suit on, the hat, everything, his Martin guitar in the case. And we said, "Don't come down, you'll fall." "No, I got these heels on my boots or something." And he was drunk, I think. He came down and he would cut, what do you call it, windmills. His arms, his guitar went over his head. He did not fall. All these other guys fell, and he did not fall. He came walking out. I guess it's from
God.
being used to stagger, but it was a show. And then he got on stage and really put on a show. You know, he was just full of himself.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, those guys, all those guys had a knack for getting through mud. Like you'd see Jim and Jesse wearing white boots and dark blue polyester suits, you know, and there wouldn't be a speck of mud on them anywhere. I mean, they would just like walk on water or walk on mud to get to the stage.
Yeah, you seen that? I think it's one of the B. Lilly or one of the Lilly brothers that are carrying like several instruments, like 4 or 5 instruments, and he's struggling, you know, walking back from, you know, the wherever the parking lot is. I mean, just a brutal work. I'm sure we all can relate to that. Changing,
Yeah.
changing in porta johns and stuff.
Oh yeah.
At Ralph's festival at the old stage at Ralph's, which sits down inside a bowl, there's a concrete set of steps that goes all the way down to that stage from where they used to park the buses.
Yeah.
And now it's all flattened out, but there's still a stage down there in that bowl. And anyway, I heard that Ed Ferris went all the way down those stairs on his ass, carrying his bass.
Yeah.
He slipped at the top one and went all the way down. Rode it all the way down.
Poor Ed, Yeah. Did you know Ed Ferris, Mike?
I met him a few times, but I didn't get to know him very well. I saw him several times when he was playing with Bill Harrell back in the 80s and got to just meet him once or twice. I saw him play several times. I saw him play with the Johnson Mountain Boys one time at Gettysburg, actually, filling in with the Johnson Mountain Boys there.
Wow. He was in Northern Virginia somewhere, wasn't he?
I believe so, or Maryland, yeah.
It's D.C., yeah. Well, he wasn't many records, with the human. He died fairly young, I believe. I think it was back in the early 90s or something.
Yeah, remember they gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award at IBMA one year, and Ernie Sykes presented it to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
great.
it was really a great thing. And Ernie had I don't know if you ever saw Ed when he wore a leather hat. He had this it looked like a Kentucky Gambler hat, but it was made out of leather.
Mm-hmm.
And he wore it for a long time. And Ernie had one just like it. And Ed was really one of his mentors and idols, growing up playing the bass, and they were good friends. And I remember Ernie presenting him that award at IBMA, and he had his hat with him too. It was pretty cool.
Yeah. Indeed. Well, guys, I'm gonna sign off pretty early tonight. I have to. I've had this sty in my eye, and it's draining a little bit. But I think that was a wonderful show, everybody.
Thanks for inviting me in.
Mike, Bob, you have a standing invitation. You can come on anytime. You're gonna be a good addition, no matter what we're talking about. So,
well, I appreciate it.
Yeah, do it, Mike. Both of you mics. We got two mics here, Gord.
Two mics, no waiting.
Yeah, there you go.
Right. So I'm going to just go ahead and end the live broadcast. If y'all want to stay on for a second.
All right.
So here we go. End.
Now I'm out of here.
Okay.